I'm sorry if I'm interrupting you speaking right now, but the room is muted and nobody online can hear.
Oh, can you hear us now?
Yes.
Oh, you didn't miss anything. Okay, so we're going to go through the people who have signed in and said they wanted to speak tonight that are in the room, and then we'll see if anybody online wants to speak. So we have Sandy Chaleski. Come on up, Sandy.
Hi, I'm Sandy Chaleski. This is working because otherwise I yell. I am an owner of 959 Starling Drive. Since there seems to be some question of whether Shelley or I should be reassigned to continue to serve on the Covenants Committee, I would like to share with you a bit about an experience my family had when moving into Celebration. We have been lifelong Disney fans and have been visiting Disney World from its very beginning in 1971. While Celebration was being developed in the mid-90s, we explored the new neighborhoods and hoped someday to be able to live here. In 2019, we bought our home in Celebration and were delighted with our little neighborhood and the friendly neighbors we were meeting. That warm, fuzzy feeling suddenly changed with one simple email from Town Hall on March 16th, 2020. We had just made our last trip driving down from Connecticut with a U-Haul trailer attached to our car. It had been a stressful trip since COVID was beginning to shut things down, and everything seemed a bit unsettled. We arrived at our new home late at night on a Friday and parked our car with the trailer attached in our own driveway. We were very careful not to block the alley and not to park on the street in front of our house. The next morning, we unloaded the trailer and then drove it out of Celebration by noon to return it to U-Haul. 2 days after returning the U-Haul trailer, an email from Town Hall felt like a slap in the face, certainly not a welcoming note. To be brief, it said the trailer in the driveway needs to be stored away. It then went on to quote Exhibit C rules, etc. The attached photo clearly showed that the trailer was still attached to the car. Yes, I replied with a very humble message about the fact that it was only there to unload as we moved into our new home. No reply from Town Hall. Soon after becoming a resident, I was asked to join the Covenants Committee, and I decided this was my opportunity to make sure that no other new homeowners would be greeted in the way that we had been. My goal was, and still is, to help our residents find ways to keep our community standards up to the excellent levels that had been planned for our community. I suspect we all decided to make Celebration our home because we could see that it was a well-kept community of which we could all be proud. My goal is to help the residents with any issues that might arise, not to harshly punish people for any misunderstandings. Now that I've started to attend CROA board meetings, I have realized I'm not living in Camelot. The board members can't seem to get along with each other in order to conduct their meetings in a civil manner. The nasty, belittling comments made by certain board members are stressful to observe. The power of authority on the board is one-sided, and anyone who disagrees with the present board-member majority is scorned, and members are being removed from committees in order to satisfy some sort of bias. I'm seeing a darker side of Celebration. I can only hope that future board members will be able to lift us up to the level Celebration residents once had and still expect and deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Or if anybody online who would like to speak? I don't see any hands up. Anyone? Okay. That being said, there's no comments.
Shelley Reiki, 1121 Indigo. I'm just wondering if y'all know about the car that's on Waterside that's wrecked. that's been there for weeks.
Yeah, I'm looking at her trying to.
I just was wondering if there was any.
I think it's gone.
No,
The little one?
It was there today when I came
The
home from
blue one?
with my husband. It's silver and it's up on the curb.
On the other silver.
Yeah.
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 Okay. With that, anybody else? Okay. All right. Adopt the agenda. Do you have a motion from someone?
So moved.
Thank you, Jim.
I'll second.
And it was Charles. Any discussion?
I'd like to make a amendment to revise the agenda to include a new agenda item, new action item, which would to discuss and take action on repairs to this building.
Okay. I would also like to remove number 19 from the consent agenda because I feel that there's more discussion needed and probably today's meeting wouldn't be the time to do it. It's got a pretty
Yeah.
packed agenda.
I also noticed that there wasn't sufficient documentation on that.
Can I ask a clarifying question on you? If one is that action or discussion?
Action.
What act, or do we have?
We can discuss it under action.
Yeah, I'm going to withdraw my motion. I don't agree with that because we didn't let the residents know ahead of time. And I think that's not a good thing to do, to put that on at the last minute.
I think it's more urgent. I think we can discuss it under an action item and then decide whether to move forward.
Understood.
That makes sense.
So someone needs to move the amended one.
I'll make that motion to approve the agenda with two modifications. One is removal of consent agenda item 19 and to add add an agenda, an action item, which would be a new item 19 about taking action on the sale of building, and we can discuss it.
Is there a second? Jennifer, can you hear me? I think we've lost the room.
Yes, we have no sound.
And no video.
And this is Laura, and this happens in every meeting when I'm on Teams. It has now for 2 years.
Now we've lost them completely.
Do you have a way to contact Lauren and let her know?
I just
Yes.
did. I just did.
I did as well. She said she's getting back on.
Okay, thanks. Because they turn off the chat on us too, so we can't even chat. Do you think we should sign off and sign back on?
No, they're working on it.
Thank you.
Looks like everyone's still there.
Yep. Can you hear us? I can see the camera to you, Jose. The camera towards you is working.
Good. Yes. Apologies, everybody. Let's run through the last vote for adopting the agenda. David made the motion. Celia seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
I'm opposed.
Okay, so Jim and Jared. Okay, approval of minutes. Motion from someone, please.
I'll make the motion.
Celia, there's a second?
I'll second.
What's that?
Those Charles.
Oh, Charles.
I'll second.
Thank you, Charles. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. Financial report, June. Jen, are you gonna
Yes,
start us off?
yes, I can.
Okay. Nice to see you.
June's month ended with a 17,700 deficit, a year-to-date of 86,900 deficit. Our current fund balances as of the end of June is the operating is at 879,000 for the fund balance. The reserve is 1.9 million.
The room has muted itself again, so we cannot hear the room.
Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
We hear Jeff.
Jennifer, can we
Yeah,
hear
Jared
you?
can hear us.
Jennifer's muted. Jennifer's muted.
Yeah, someone muted me.
It was Jared.
Did
Just kidding, just kidding, just kidding.
Yeah,
Did
it
you-
wasn't me, just for the record, it wasn't me.
No, it's fine. Did you guys get the report or do I need to repeat anything?
Can you go back to capital?
Capital.
The capital fund balance is currently 3.2 million.
And what was reserved?
1.9.
Thank you.
Almost two.
And the deficit is from the 851 building. Is that correct, Jennifer?
Yes, that is correct.
From last year.
Yeah, the $195,000 in remediation is the largest cause of your deficit.
If you take that out, then we would be at a surplus.
Well, and if you look at the income and expenses, not just that far, we're right on the money as far as budget goes. You know, we're right 50% spent, 50% earned. So that's good at least. I do have a question, and maybe this is dumb. For the first time I noticed there's no budget numbers in the reserve statements. Is that normal, or would we not put in what the reserve study shows we would be spending for a given year? No? I never noticed it before.
No, typically the only thing you're going to see in the budget for that is going to be whatever the board might have budgeted to be spent in the year. For 2023, there was nothing budgeted other than the replacement allocation.
So if we knew that like Lakeside Playground was up in the reserve study for next year and we planned this year and said, yes, we're definitely spending that money next year, then we could
So
place
it's
it in
over,
the
and, it's
budget.
over and above
Yeah.
what is already in the reserve study. Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any questions, comments, concerns?
And so we have a paper copy only of of what's coming up for the reserve of each year.
There's an electronic copy.
There is. Okay. Excel?
It's an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
yes.
That's what I thought.
And it includes CROA and all of the service areas.
Thank you.
Any other questions from anybody? Jen, anything else you need to share? Want to share? Nothing? Okay.
Nope.
Okay. And again, good to have you. All righty, committee and partner updates. Committee updates. Anybody have anything to share?
I'll share about special events.
Okay.
Okay. I missed the meeting, but I had the chairperson send me everything about the 4th of July, just so the community knows. 5:30, the DJ started at Market Street. 7:30 and 9:30, Velvet Vanguard was the band. The CROA team used every tent for the restaurant and vendors. The park and ride shuttle provided service from 2:15 Celebration Place.
Was that well utilized?
That it was from 4 to 11 p.m. Was that well utilized? Yes?
Yep.
Good. Great. That was a good plus this year. Lakeside open to residents only at 5 o'clock. DJ Renee played music for the residents. The tap truck and staff sold refreshments. By 8:15, the Great Lawn was packed with residents. This year, they did it a little different. There were no tables and chairs, so there was more people that you were able to put on the Great Lawn. 9:20 with the fireworks. They were shot off for well over 2,600 residents and their guests, plus all the other people that were outside of Lakeside. There's a murder mystery dinner on August 5th at Heritage, which is sold out. And as far as the service area, I've been working with Rose on the service area budget.
Bill?
ARC, the ARC meeting was last night, but so was the finance. The ARC had been rescheduled from last week, so I did not attend and I have no knowledge of it yet.
Okay.
As
Jim?
far as finance goes, the finance committee met last night, working, I think, very diligently and very thoroughly, line by line, discussions about all the different numbers and whether there can be cost savings. And we're going to have another meeting on the 7th, finance committee meeting. And I think the budget process is going well. I mean, it's getting a lot of looking at. And I don't think we'll have any trouble meeting the board's deadline for when you're going to get your meeting, or our meeting, switching hats, for the next board meeting. We're going to do finance. Also, Truist has now got our investment amounts, which was authorized a number of months ago, and we signed the last of the papers yesterday, you and I. So they will have our reserve accounts, and we expect to earn about $125,000 over the next 6 months. Could be a little bit more because there could be other monies put in, but that money then comes off or goes into the income side, which means that we reduce some of the other budget issues. And so we should be collecting interest very soon.
Jen, are you still there?
Yes.
Somebody
Am I
asked
still here?
last night- Yeah. Somebody last night asked how quickly that transfer would occur. I would think as soon as they open the account, you would wire the money in and done deal.
As
Or no?
soon as yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Amy sent the paperwork in today, overnighted it. So
Okay.
as soon as we get notice, then Jen will transfer it in.
So just a clarification, just Bill, you had there was the finance workshop last night, and the next one is August 7th, I think you said. And you said in time for when the board deals with it, which is 2 days later, right? So August 9th is when we have the board workshop, which is when we formally digest all of that with the recommendations from the finance committee. I don't know that it'll be an absolute final document. It'll be, I think it's pretty far along. You know, Cindy, you were there last night.
Yeah.
And so at that point, will we see what management's initial recommendation was, and then and then like suggestions for modifications?
I don't know if we,
Or what is it, what are we, what
I
will
don't
we
think we
looking
need to
at?
go back.
What will we in the community look at on August 9th?
So you'll be seeing any updates to the numbers based on the finance committee's commentary. I can note where the largest changes have been
That'll
on
be-
the side.
That'll be helpful, like in a notes column, separate column, just say, this was eliminated, this was doubled, this, and some of that is in your weekly report
Yes,
where it says, we recalculated this and that.
correct.
Okay, so that'll be very helpful.
For instance, there's a large item, like $45,000 in miscellaneous expense. So the committee asked that Lauren break it.
Yeah, what's miscellaneous?
Yeah, exactly. So
That
she's
was
gonna work on
sent
that.
out. That was sent out
And some of
today.
the posting errors or whatever. So those kinds of things.
Yeah, that's good. That'll be helpful.
Jim?
No, I'm waiting. You called on me, and so I'm waiting to talk about the technology committee. That's
Oh,
all.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, so that meeting, are we gonna be going line by line? And is that the meeting where we're going and saying
The
that? No,
August
yeah.
9th is the CROA board budget workshop.
So that's where we're
That's
at.
where you guys want to go line by line, or however you guys want to handle going through. the
What's your
budget.
recommendation at this point?
The finance committee has been going through it line by line. It's been working very well.
Yeah, the meetings-
It does take time, but at least it hits everything. And if there's something that jumps out at you, then you can ask through it, and it's rather methodical.
So to that point, with your, I'm just thinking of preparation for the August 9th meeting, your final iteration will be on the 7th. When would we see that final iteration? I mean, obviously, no more than 48 hours ahead. Because,
So I can send everybody the iteration that was modified after last night's meeting. I don't foresee a lot of large
Okay.
changes
That'll be
between now
helpful.
and the meeting on the 7th. It was just to answer a couple of follow-up questions that were left hanging from the finance committee and make sure that they were all comfortable with kind of the draft final numbers to get to the board before the workshop. So I will send that out to everybody.
and then whatever changes they make, you can highlight, hey, we had 4 changes.
Yeah.
And boom, boom, boom. That'll be helpful so we can do the advanced work.
It's worth noting that the last 2 workshops with the finance committee and the next workshop on the 7th are board meetings also, so they are open to everyone to attend on the board as well. So nothing is hidden or secretive from the board on either last night's meeting or next Monday's meeting.
I think the design on making those board meetings is so that we weren't limited to 3 because of public notice.
Exactly.
I do have one small thing while I'm thinking about it, and I apologize. So when you set up for that finance meeting, will you put one of these little tables in front in the thing there? I was trying to write stuff down yesterday and stuff kept falling off my lap because I was sitting in the audience and not at the table. I mean, just doesn't have to have a cover on it, just something to write on. Thank you. Okay, Jim, I apologize. I forgot that he had 2 committees. I thought he was done after ARC. So do you?
Well, yeah, actually, the liaison is Jared, for the finance committee.
Oh, I guess treasurer's report.
Him to report on that. For those of you that were here last month, you'll see a pattern here. I'm going to ask the chair of the technology committee to come up and share the progress that he's made with Jose and his staff.
Thanks, Jim. John Greenberg, Technology Chair. Real exciting this past week, Jose and I met and Tom Hall with ProTech Security. Wednesday and Thursday, they brought vendors with them, Gallagher Security and DMP. So they showed us a security package with access in it. And the exciting part of it was how it ties into our system. And to be able to get a mobile card, your old card will still work, but the mobile card will give you access to all the pools, access to all of our amenities. It also ties into, we talked to them about like the dog park. So when people go in the dog park, their rabies and everything will be tied to that as well. It'll be tied to all the sports facilities. So when our kids are at the park and people ask them if they're residents, the kids can also have their cards on there. I was there at 4th of July also feeling it was amazing, but there were tons of people lined up without their cards, right? And they were, can you get me in? So they didn't have their card. So and then people are showing their driver's license. So again, looking at like that, to be able to have access. Jose and Tom asked some great questions about how it ties in, getting all of our residents access to it and be able to, again, move to the next stage with that card and the mobile card with the phone. So again, real exciting. Hopefully if everything goes in, we get one more vendor to come in. I asked Jose today, maybe 6 months we can get that. And it'd be awesome to have that access card tie into all of our systems. So real excited. Dave?
So a clarification of that, when you say mobile card and what
Physical card.
So, yeah, so our old physical cards will
have
still work.
both. One would have
Our old
both.
physical cards will still work.
Because we
There'll be a
still
new
have many
digital
residents who do not
card as
have
well. Yep.
smartphones.
Yep, exactly. So,
Okay.
so
Thank you.
best of both worlds. on it,
Thank
so. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Jim, do you have anything to add?
I do not.
Okay.
Thank you.
Carl's.
We have Parks and Rec tomorrow. We have a pretty good agenda. We're going to be discussing the facility rental fee structure and looking at partner program and civic group rental rates. It should be a pretty good discussion. I'm actually reading from the agenda now. We're also going to be looking at some specific line items for the community chorus and garden club. So I'll report back next
Great.
meeting. Yeah.
Thank you. Jared? Dog park? Anything?
No, I have nothing to report from the dog park committee.
Okay. Anybody have anything else to share? Okay. CCDD, back to Jim.
Thank you. Yeah, I was at the CCD meeting last night. We had some discussions around GoGov. Just to clarify what Lauren wrote in her report, we're not part of the implementation. We are trying to see the functionality by asking an implementer as opposed to asking a salesperson. And we're commenting on things that if we were to share the same platform, what we would need on the CROA side. So, but they did say that is slowing them down. So unless we can make a decision tonight, which I don't think we're ready to go with GoGov with them, they would like us to step back so they can finish their implementation.
Would you like us to do what? I didn't.
Step back, not be as involved as we have been so far.
Got it.
And really the only involvement is we sat in and commented on one meeting, and Jose got a list of incident types. Is that, yeah, incident types, and he also helped to get access to the county's digital records having to do with ownership. So just, we haven't invested a lot of time, but the demo did not satisfy Jose, the tech committee, or myself in terms of addressing our needs. So that's why we sat on that initial call.
So you said that the CCDD has asked that we take a step back if we're not interested. Can we discuss that a little bit? Can we make a decision on that tonight? Is that something we have to vote on? Or?
Well, it's definitely something we have to vote on.
Well, but I mean, formally.
Well, I am probably the most involved in this, and I do not have enough information to make that recommendation to even anyone else, right?
Can we put that as an agenda item for August meeting or the workshop?
Sure.
For the workshop or for the board meeting?
The workshop is the same as well.
Yeah, and I think at the workshop, then we'll have more time, we can discuss it leisurely and get
budget
the
workshop?
CCDD. No.
Yeah.
Well, it is
That's
your
the budget
it's
workshop.
fine.
I would not confound that with the budget workshop.
So it would be.
No,
I think
I'm
this
not
is
speaking
critical.
about the budget workshop. I'm speaking about the August board workshop, the general board workshop.
That is the budget.
That is.
That is the budget workshop.
Oh, okay. If that's the only one, then yes, I agree, David.
Oh, okay, cool.
So what is our renewal cycle in Cella service right now? When do we renew?
You're in next year,
It was springish.
April,
March,
April,
March,
May.
April.
Yeah.
So even if we wanted to. we need to-
That we made the decision in February. We made the decision in February that we weren't ready to make a decision. and that we would extend it for at least one more year.
Greg Twilight has his hand up online, if
Okay.
you're willing to take the commentary.
I invite Greg to add any additional comments.
Hey, Greg.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, just to kind of expand a little bit on Jim's comments, I think the consensus of our board was certainly we absolutely would still invite and welcome CROA to partner on this. So I don't want to take the stepping back comment as not having you engaged. It's more of I think where my staff was saying some of the conversations were going was, hey, can you integrate this? Hey, can you to actually start implementing things for CROA, not knowing if you guys were actually committed to coming on it. What I had suggested last night was if between the board and the tech committee and staff and whomever else, if you're able to develop a list of questions, hey, what are the things you need answered in order to get you all to a point where you're ready to say yes or no, that we can run those past the GoGov staff. I think that may help speed this up a little bit, that we don't necessarily need to implement all of that. We just need to validate for you that the tool can or cannot do certain things. If we can get to that point, I think that may help move things along a little bit. But I don't want the comment to be understood that we are trying to back away from the partnership. I think there's still a strong desire that we have you on board if you all are interested.
Town, the room is muted again.
Okay. So if we put this on the agenda for our August meeting, I'm assuming the technology committee is going to meet before our August meeting.
Mhm.
Okay. And you're very much involved in that. Can you guys put together some questions that we might be able to get to Greg before, so he can ask them of GoGov before we get to our August meeting, do you think?
Sure. Yeah.
Is there a date for the August technology meeting?
Next week. isn't
Second,
it?
I think.
August
Second at 5:30. What? 5:30. Sorry.
August 2nd.
Didn't we a couple months ago hear about a different software platform?
Owner.
That's what they're working on.
Okay.
They're working on.
I mean, I think we should move
Rec-Pro-
expeditiously.
It's a RecPro replacement,
Yeah, right.
and it also has a social media component to it and a community messaging component to it. And it also does have a facilities maintenance request that does tie into a map system, so that could potentially be an option, but it's one thing that the tech committee is working on it and we're testing with.
So,
other areas.
Way different options.
Yeah, so the concern is from the residents' perspective that they would have to figure out who the request needed to be submitted to. And then they'd have to jump on an app, one or the other. And then they agreed with me that we're still going to have some overlap and we'll have to pass information back and forth like we do now. But if we use the owner app, will be installed so that people can reserve time, correct?
Yeah. Mhm.
So
It's
they'll
more
already have
than
that
just-
installed. So that's another way to look at it.
It's more than just.
Pluses
that.
and minuses with different options.
Mhm.
And like, I know not to call my plumber for my electrical work. I mean, some of this we just learn.
I know we're belaboring this topic, but I think one thing we need to be mindful of, I know we talked about it when we had the workshop, is we're going to get to a point as CDD starts to unwind sell a service and we continue on our path down sell a service. There's going to be some confusion about where to go for what.
Yeah.
So at some point we need to, and through the tech committee, we're going to need to make sure that we're properly thinking about the ecosystem and where we're directing folks. And if we're going to create backlogs in town hall with questions and where are these things going to be going? So I think we need to be thoughtful around that.
And through that, I think we'll learn, here are common misdirected questions. I mean, people are going to CDD for X or Y, and then we learn that, we do education campaigns, and I mean, that'll continue forever, but we can start to minimize that.
Yeah, I
Monitor the errors.
Yeah, I cringe at just directing people to more than one place to go. And because sell a service right now, that's where we direct people to put things in. It's just going to create chaos, in my opinion, with GoGov for here, it's already hard enough to identify, like, is this CROA, is the CDD? I think we're inviting a whole host of challenges. So just something I think we need to keep in the back of our minds.
Yeah, that was a real important point that was discussed in the last technology meeting, is that a very high preference should go to try to have it on one app. We may not be able to do that, but yes.
So
I think there's a lot of crossover, with the other core group in town that was established when Disney established Celebration, which is the foundation. They get calls that are really CROA calls, and then they make the appropriate referral. And then CROA gets calls that are really foundation calls. So the CROA then makes the referral to the foundation. So I think there's going to be lots of crossover. That's the alphabet soup that we learn to live with. But to your point, Charles, we're trying to minimize the confusion.
Yep.
So by the time,
So I've been working with Jose on this.
oh, hi.
The back end is the same. If you do GoGov or you do the owner app, it's the same on the back. There's no confusion there. It's just which user interface do you want to use. It's like going to an ATM or walking in the bank. You do the same thing on the back end. It's just the way you go to it with the front. So, I mean, that's really, so the confusion part on the back end, there isn't going to be no confusion on the back end. It all gets routed the same place. Just
Okay, I'm confused. Say that again?
No,
so it's
technology.
Just buy one system.
so just where it gets routed to. If somebody took launches and threw it in the pool, somebody took a picture and submitted the service request, it gets routed properly on the back end. It's just which app do you want to use to do it. So to me, it's like an ATM. We're going in the bank. You're doing the same thing. It's which one do you prefer? Right? It's just a link that somebody clicks and an email gets sent off into the system.
Okay.
Some residents will be using, say, the owner app. Some can use the GoGov app. But it's depends.
Cindy, if somebody submits something on owner, if for some reason we were on two separate systems, if somebody submits something on owner, then there's a back end workflow that would get that would route that to CDD to the right place. Same thing
Here?
Well, it would say, this is a CDD issue. We have sent it to them. You can follow up with them here.
Oh, okay.
If same thing on the GoGov side, if something is submitted to them that's actually an us thing, they would receive a similar response and it would get rerouted to us. It's
The user makes no choices. The user just submits a ticket. It's the same for them. It's just which app do you use?
Well, when they know which app to submit it on.
Yeah.
I mean, they can do what we just talked about. CROA issues can be submitted on GoGov if GoGov is just for CCDD and vice versa.
It still gets routed back to CCDD.
Yeah, but it's the user experience we're talking to. So,
Yeah.
Thank you.
thanks.
So it like looks for keywords if it says sees like park in it or something?
No, it's
Okay,
a
never
lot more
mind.
complicated.
Okay. Never mind.
Don't go there now.
Okay, I won't.
I want to hear more.
Too bad.
Next board meeting.
Anything else, Jim? CCD?
No, thank you.
And this is going on the GoGov is going on our agenda for August, our regular August meetings, about a month from now. And the Talk Technology Committee and Jose, and you're gonna try to come up with a plan or a recommendation before then, right? Okay, good. Okay, foundation. Did I see Kathleen? I did.
Thank you, Cindy.
You're welcome.
Kathleen Scipio, Celebration Foundation. As much as I would love to begin the monthly report talking about Christmas in July, sorry, parents, going to talk about back to school. We currently have an initiative going on called Stuff the Bus. This is an annual tradition where we accept new school supply donations at Town Hall and the Celebration Foundation office, and that will support the children in need in Celebration K through 8, Celebration High School, and now Island Village K through 8. So if you're out shopping, there's a BOGO, or you're at the dollar store and you'd like to donate some items, bring them on down. We have Celebration Lifelong, our lifelong learning program, getting ready for the fall session. Yes, I said the word fall. They register on August 22nd, and you can register to become a member and choose between face-to-face classes, or we also have some Zoom options. They also have a special event. I don't know if you recall when Dr. Lori came to town a couple of years ago. She is a star antique appraiser, kind of think Antique Roadshow, where you find a treasure in your home and you come and it gets appraised. The last time she was in town, somebody brought a 3x5 rug that was hanging on their uncle's wall, that had a Campbell's soup can on it, picture of Campbell's soup, and it was appraised at $3,000. So bring your trash, treasure, or whatever. It is September 21st at Community Presbyterian Church. It's at 6:30, and you just have to register on the foundation website. And again, continuing that back to school theme, I met with the new principal of Celebration K-8, Principal Whedon, and he expressed interest for a program by the Education Foundation called Bookmark Buddies to return to Celebration K-8. That program was there pre-pandemic. It is a community volunteer that comes in and does one-on-one mentoring with third grade students to get them up on their reading level. There's data to support that if you are not on the right reading level by third grade, everything is a real big struggle uphill from that point on. That program has a 98% success rate at Celebration K-8, and the foundation is funding $5,000 for the Bookmark Buddies to return this school year.
So how does one get more information on that? Is it through you or is it through the school?
So it is through the foundation. I have a link where you can become a volunteer. There is a process, and it will go out this week in the foundation's electronic newsletter. It's a great program. We sent 3 pallets of food to Embrace to backlot apartments. And what does that mean? That's our Learning Without Hunger program. That means that 900 food packs full of applesauce, oatmeal, tuna, chicken, granola bars will go right into the students' hands along 192 that are struggling with food insecurity that traditionally get those meals during the school year. We also are putting out $20,000 in the community of Aldi restricted gift cards. It's food only. We are distributing $5,000 to the Boys and Girls Clubs of Osceola County, $5,000 to Embrace of Celebration, $5,000 to the Hope Partnership, and $5,000 to the Presentation Brothers, and they support 5 schools in Osceola County. And now for Christmas in July. We are plotting and planning the biggest community event, hopefully as big as the July 4th parade when we had the entire community on the sidewalks. That was wonderful. It is the annual Holiday Home Tour and Winter Wonderland. I think everybody's really familiar with the Holiday Home Tour. A resident donates their home, decorates, volunteers stand in there. If you're not familiar with Winter Wonderland, it's the most famous stop of all. It happens here, but it happens with 100 community volunteers that say, don't want to donate my home, but I can donate a tree and decorate it with a theme or a tablescape, and then the foundation can get the proceeds from that. It is a week filled of community spirit, holiday spirit. Sometimes we only see each other once a year during this event. And then for the weekend, we have Celebration High School students come in and get the Bright Future Community Service Hours. So in order to make this community-wide event happen, obviously we need community volunteers. We do have 10 homes now that have decided to be on the tour. So I'm very hopeful, knowing that you're discussing 851 tonight and Winter Wonderland, that we can get a yay or a nay, whether we can move forward with that. Last year, we raised almost $100,000, and 90% of the proceeds went back into our community organizations. So really hopeful that it will happen again this year, and I thank you all.
Thanks, Kathleen.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to the action items. We have now 18 consent agenda items. Assuming that everyone has read through them, doesn't have any questions, we'll do it as a package deal. I have a motion to approve items 1 through 18 on the agenda.
So before you do that, do
Sure.
we take questions before we make the motion to adopt? I just have a couple clarification things.
Motion and second first and then.
Motion, not motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay,
But I just would like to have a quick discussion on a couple items, not to pull them, just a couple
gotcha.
clarifications.
So you got a motion from David. Do I have a second? Celia?
Okay,
Did you want to pull one?
no, I don't.
We
Um,
typically shouldn't be discussing.
Technically speaking, on the consent agenda, we should have prepared beforehand and be ready to vote on it or pull it off if you want more discussion.
No, I think it's not a discussion of whether it's a yay or an nay. It's a clarification moving forward. It's not about the vote.
He's ready to vote. He just has a question.
Yes.
Okay.
So on item 1, which is page 42, and item 7, which is page 101, these are plantings in Island Village. And some of the language there says, prevent the root issue. This is a replacement. This is not challenging the replacement at all. But it's just a question of moving forward, either Mattamy or TCC had these things placed and they were wrong. So how do we prevent that in the future? That's all that I want to clarify, that we don't have this happen again, and we have to go back and rectify.
Yeah, so we're already in contact with Mattamy about the location of the trees as they relate to the building. And we've talked about it with Mark from TCC about the placement of them as well, / the selection of tree that was chosen. So we shouldn't see it moving forward, and it is not a current issue at Building 6.
Good, and hopefully building 7 and then phase 2 and so forth. Thank you.
Good?
That's it.
Okay. All right, so we had a motion from David, a second from Celia. Any more questions about what we're approving? Nope. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Excuse me, I had a question.
What's that?
What was that?
That was no
Resident has
board
a
member.
question.
We can continue.
All right.
We can
Okay.
continue.
I raised my hand and had a question. This is Johnny Newsom. Why,
So we're no consent agenda, unfortunately, under comments have passed.
Yes.
Comments are stopped.
Sorry, sir. I'm
what
sorry.
was the reason I
So,
can't
favor?
speak? What,
Yeah, we've had
what was the reason I can't speak?
owner's comments
There's
at
an
the beginning.
owner's comment at the beginning of the meeting. And then also, this is just a consent agenda where there aren't any, we don't take questions on the
Okay,
this,
but I will,
portion of the agenda.
for the record, I will concede that I should have identified that I wanted to speak at the beginning of the meeting, but there is no reason why people can't comment on the consent agenda. That is, I challenge that.
Yeah, Robert's Rules of Order.
Robert's rules.
Robert, if you could direct your question to
Let's
town
mute him.
hall.
Mute him.
We'll be
Yeah.
glad to have management take a look at it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Why
Too late for now.
Why is the public not allowed to comment on the consent agenda? Other than the fact that I didn't read.
Let's mute him.
Can I give a friendly attaboy
Okay. So
for the,
that's passed. Okay. Action required.
no, Cindy, I just want to say thanks, Natalie, for the protectors on the posts in the dog park.
Very well.
They look great.
That's around the poles, right? Yes.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay. Action required. The first one. Motion to approve recommendation of the Recreation Committee 6-month contract with the
We should probably
No.
address 19 that was taken off first.
address it.
No, it's
taken off.
completely off the
Oh, we
agenda.
took it off. We
Yeah,
didn't move it down.
No. we
All right,
took it
then-
completely off.
For all of these contracts, and extensions, the only change is drug testing for volunteers that are not yet adult. So I would like to make a motion to
Do them in a lump.
pass all of them.
I'll second that.
1 through 13.
1 through 13.
Mhm.
Good.
Who does, can I ask? Wait, you made
I
the
was,
motion?
I second that. I second Jim's motion.
Motion.
Yeah.
Second.
Jim, and who seconded?
David.
Okay. Okay.
I do have a question though. On items 2 through 13, it does not say in the documentation as reviewed or recommended by the Recreation Committee.
They are
Were
all-
those reviewed and recommended by the Recreation Committee?
Those were all reviewed and
Okay,
recommended.
so that just wasn't in the documentation.
And I
And
know we
if the
have-
record can show that those were indeed reviewed and recommended by
And we
the,
do have members of the rec
I don't
committee.
need anything more than that. It just wasn't in the documentation. So I wanted to make sure it didn't skip that step.
No.
Thank you.
Oh, I have a question about, like Jim said, everything on here is the same except for the drug testing. Who does the drug testing?
That's the programs is required to supply that.
The program.
We don't-
Correct.
we
We
don't
don't
do the
have
drug
anything
test
to
here,
do
no,
with
no.
it. They just have to supply the result.
Correct.
Or would.
That they did it.
Okay, thank you.
There is a past precedent set by other programs that are currently doing that within town.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. All right. Number 14, motion to appoint additional members to the Governance Committee.
So I will say that my same motion from the July meeting, I would motion for Sandy Chalesky and Shelley Reiki for the Covenants Committee.
I'll second that.
Okay, Jared and Jean. Okay, discussion. No discussion? Okay.
So we could go.
So he's making a motion for Sandy and Shelley.
Right?
What if we don't agree with that?
Vote no to that motion.
Make
We'll
another.
go to the motion and then we'll move on.
So who,
So Jared put forth Sandy and Shelley. Jim seconded it.
We need to vote on it.
We need to vote on it. All in favor?
But then if we accept it, it's done. If we don't accept it, then we come up with a separate got it,
Absolutely.
just to clarify.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
So that's Charles, Jared, and Jim. Opposed?
Nay.
I oppose.
Okay.
Or against?
4, yeah. So that's Bill, David, Celia, and myself. Is there another motion?
I'd like to make a motion
Mhm.
to add Sandy and Dan to the committee. Sandy was on the
Shall I
committee for many years, and Dan was on the
Dan
committee
and Yellow
last year.
was on the committee last year. Do I have a second?
The last names?
Which committee?
Covenants. I'll second. I'll second.
No, Sandy.
And David.
Dan.
Dan and
Yellow.
Yellow.
A-N-J-E-L-L-O. Okay, so Celia made the motion. Do I have a second?
Yes, I was second.
All in favor?
No, discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Sure.
I'm
Appreciate
sorry.
it. I'd like to know from the 4 who voted no, why they voted no, who specifically they voted no for, and why.
I'll tell you, I just made the motion to appoint Sandy and Dan. It was in an email. It's who I wanted to begin with, so that's why I voted no. Is that good enough?
No. Why?
What was your reason for choosing Dan in place of Shelley?
When we first did our originals, that's who I chose, and that's who I'm sticking with. I don't have to give a reason.
If you,
Those are my choices.
if you recall, during this process earlier in the year, the whole process was
I
hit
do recall.
the rails.
Yeah.
And that's why we stopped at 5. So she was making a recommendation on who she had initially in her.
I understand that.
I also made a recommendation off who I had originally. I just don't
Yeah,
understand.
And the original motion that was tabled, those were the 2 as well.
What are you saying, Jim?
I'll say it, what we're all thinking. It seems that there's a personal issue with Shelley Reiki, and I would like to know if that's the case, what is it? Because I don't understand why she is being treated this way. And I don't think there's anything wrong with speaking about what the concerns may be. We're all adults here, but the way this is being handled is not appropriate.
Really? Because this is who I chose, Sandy and Dan. David seconded the motion. And
I
think he means appropriate as it relates to the people involved in this decision, not to Robert's Rules of Order.
Well, then, to be fair, then will you be giving reasons why you picked the people you did pick?
Yeah.
And just to be clear, I don't think we need
Yeah.
to make any changes. I'm not for or against anybody. I think the committees are fine as they are. I just soon leave them that way.
Okay. Yes, I wanted some experience to carry over. And so both of those women have a lot of experience. And that's why.
Dan and Sandy. And now we have Jack McLaughlin, who has a ton of experience.
I don't want to argue with you guys. I'm not looking to argue.
I know, but you're talking about experience, so we do have experience.
Yeah, I wanted more experience.
All right, I'm going to speak up. So Sandy, awesome. Shelley, awesome. Dan, awesome. There's experience across all three of them. This is why we can't get on to the major tasks like 851 and dealing with the things that we need to get across. Let's just take a vote and move on.
I understand you don't like the conflict around this, but.
Call the question.
Okay, all in favor, so Susan made a motion, David seconded to put Sandy and Dan in yellow.
Before we take a vote, I'd like to see if anyone from the audience has any comments.
I don't think it's appropriate for an action item.
It is.
It's not a discussion item.
Committee members, just like.
It is appropriate.
I don't think it is. Call the question.
Question has been called.
Yeah, question's been called. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Bill?
Of serious?
Yeah, this is Sandy and Dan.
None of us say no,
No?
because again, I don't see any need to change committees.
Okay.
So it's straight or?
So it's three, wait, so.
No.
It's not a favor, so Bill's a no, Jim's a no, Charles?
I'm abstaining.
So it's a 3-3.
That's 3-3.
Well, Jared has not officially voted yet.
No, I vote no.
Okay,
So the motion fails.
so we
Motion
have
fails.
3 yeses.
So the
3
committee
noes.
stays as it is unless we have a new
Everybody
motion.
stays at, well, and I'm pretty sure I read someplace, and you can check this in the meantime, not that I'm suggesting anything. But I think in Robert's rules, once you have put forth something like this, you cannot bring it up again. Is that true?
No.
Okay, so,
New motion,
all right.
new
Okay,
motion.
All right. Then never mind. Okay, so
So
the motion dies.
just-
Is there another?
And again, this may have the same outcome. I'll nominate Sandy, period, to add to the committee.
I'll second
Can't
that.
have an even number.
No, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Sometimes people will be absent.
One of the reasons, if you may remember,
Understand.
that we brought this up before is because, number one, it was allowed to go up to 7, and number 2, more than that applied, and we want to get as many residents involved in the discussion as possible.
But on covenants, the way the covenants committee, well, you're the board liaison.
I'm not going to say anything. I'm staying out of this.
The way they've been running it, it's like.
So we have a motion, but we don't have a.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, you have.
I second.
Just trying to find a compromise that I know
I
it
understand.
expands it.
Yeah, I understand.
Could I say something?
Nope. Don't think it's appropriate for owner comments.
I think it's appropriate, but
Thank you, Chair.
I'll call the
Lauren,
question.
can you
Call the
comment
question.
from your understanding of Robert's Rules of Order? If
Well,
a board member
was
can
that
call on a
Sandy?
resident.
Was that Sandy? I wasn't looking. I'm sorry. Was that you, Sandy?
So unless
Needs
the
to
board,
recognize.
unless the board decides to recognize the resident, then, and we need to try to stay consistent throughout the action items. The consent agenda is its own thing. We shouldn't be commenting on it from a board level or a resident level. Those are business as is. If it's on the consent agenda and once you've adopted agenda, we shouldn't be talking about it. When it comes to the standard action items, if you want to acknowledge owner comments or questions during the standard action items, you can do that, but the board needs to recognize them. And I think you need to be consistent throughout. So if you want to do it in one, then do it in all. If you don't want to do it, then don't do it.
I think this is a little different than normal because this is an appointment versus something that's up for discussion like the 851 building or whatever. That's just my opinion, but I'll go with whatever
It's
everybody
an
else.
appointment. It is an appointment. That's true, but it is an appointment involving people who may have feedback about the process.
Board, vote. Do you want to
We
allow?
can vote or I'll withdraw the motion and we stay at 5.
What is the motion on the table right now?
Current motion
Appointing one
is
person.
Sandy to
Appointing
the
Sandy.
board, or is Sandy to the governance committee.
Sandy can't say anything?
Yeah, so I mean, I have a vote to let her talk. That's, I'm.
I'll vote to let people talk as well.
But that's not what we're voting on.
I thought we can.
If the majority of you want to recognize somebody from
Okay.
the audience to speak, we will.
We can do that
recognize
concurrent with the vote on the table.
Yeah.
All right.
So I got Jared, Charles,
And Jim.
I would like to have residents speak up on this.
resident comments.
I don't, because that opens up the door for any action item to have resident comments, and historically, we haven't had any. And I think it's wise to maintain that. I think it opens up a door.
I agree with David, but we also didn't let that gentleman talk when he
Well,
wanted.
that was consent
We were
agenda.
trying to cut him off. Trying.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, but he
consent
wanted
agenda.
to speak and we didn't let him speak.
It was a consent agenda.
It was consent agenda item. It's
He
different.
wanted to speak on an item on the consent agenda, not an item on the action item.
I think to not let residents speak on action items, on things that we're making decisions on, and to not solicit audience, resident feedback seems a very unwise thing to do, regardless if it's been done historically. That seems the time when we should be getting feedback from the residents.
I think
Again, these are board appointments. They're not something that the community
Is voting.
votes on.
But you're sitting up there
And the-
talking about
And the
me.
time for discussion on action item.
so. So David said no, Bill said no, Cindy and Celia, where are you with allowing Sandy?
Who wants to speak?
Sandy
Sandy.
And Shelley.
and Shelley. We have 3 yeses, 2 nos, and 2
I
undecided.
think we just make the decision and move on.
There's 2 more votes to be made. Is this
So
Celia,
it's a
yes or no? Cindy, yes or no?
Celia, Cindy?
Celia, you said no?
No.
But I'll be out in the hallway if anybody.
I'll make it easy and withdraw the motion.
And then it just dawned on me.
David's withdrawing the motion and it ties.
So we stay at 5, unless someone has a different motion.
I'm just not understanding why we have a problem appointing Sandy to the committee.
Well, at this point, we don't have a motion on the floor, so
Yeah,
that's,
because
we're
they're
not
not
discussing anymore.
We don't have a motion anymore.
My particular reasons are, I do want it to be an odd number for votes. I think that's really, really important. Number one, and number two, it's not really a compromise. It's just kind of a smoothing things over. I believe, I don't want to speak for Sandy, but I believe she would not be interested to do that.
Okay. David withdrew his motion,
Move on.
So we'll move on to the next item.
dog park.
I'd motion for Matthew Blake and Paul Battolini.
Do you have a second?
A second.
Any discussion?
What were the names again?
Matthew Blake and Paul Battaglia.
You calling for discussion now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll vote no on this. I know that the dog cart committee is timing out. Their charter or mission for this year had 6 meetings scheduled, and they should be thinking about transition, and I don't think we need to add new members at this point. So I'll vote no.
I need to remind the board that we weren't able to have the meeting last month because we only had 1 person. So you're preventing meetings from happening by not actioning on this.
Meetings can happen.
Meetings can happen and discussion can occur. They just can't vote without a quorum.
Yes, thank you.
So you're saying the one person who was there can talk to themselves about issues?
Well, they weren't there. I'm assuming that the representatives from staff were there and the liaison was there.
If they're meeting members who are not participating, then they can be replaced. But I don't see a need to expand the committee at this point.
But there's been a lot of feedback, just at least who I've talked to, of honestly keeping the committee going, just because there is interest, there is, residents, there are residents who are interested in keeping it going. And I was on the fence about this in the beginning, like I didn't know. I mean, should we keep it going? Should not be too many committees, but I don't know. I mean, if the interest is there and we have volunteers that want to do it, why not? So I think I don't know. I think it's hard to say right now, is there not a future for the dog park committee? Like down the road, maybe, but I don't think we necessarily say.
As the resolution stands now, it calls for it to, as it
Yeah.
stands now, until March. It stands for it to dissolve in March.
Yeah.
I'll also say that these 2 these two that I just nominated were also at the last meeting. So had they been on the committee, we would have been able to hold the meeting anyway. And David, I will point out the last email that you sent all of us as a board was you fully agree that all committees should have as many members as possible. So I am confused by your concern here.
I've had some rethinking. Don't think it's needed now.
Okay. So we have a motion by Jared and second by Jim to add Matt and Paul. I scribbled. Matt and Paul to the dog park committee. No a discussion. I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Do you want to do a roll call?
Okay, we can do that since we're getting a big silence here. Jared?
Yes.
Jim? Or I'm sorry, Charles?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
No?
No. No.
Well, I'm going to say no on who Jared picked.
Well, that's the motion.
And then no.
Okay. And I'm going to be a no as well. Is there another motion?
Well, the motion doesn't carry, just, you're right.
Motion.
Yeah.
Sorry.
By a vote of 3-4.
Any other motions?
Do you want to make a motion? Do you want to? I'm trying to.
Fee waivers?
I do have a question about the people who voted no. I thought when we originally voted on this, we were deferential to the liaison in some way. It doesn't seem like that's.
Why do you always make it sound like? Okay, no, I'm just saying, he's asking a question, a differential to the liaison. What does that mean? I'm not.
When remember when we started this discussion last time, they brought up adding somebody to the covenants committee, and I thought it would have been nice if somebody had said something to me before they brought it up at a meeting with recommendations.
Right.
That's all I said. But then I think that.
Celia,
is that what you're talking about?
I was referring to our original vote and the process that came before that, where there was deference to the liaison and their choices as opposed to a 4-3 split.
I'm fine moving on from this. I just wanted to be clear to residents in the room that we have a dog park committee with only 3 people, not 5 that could be allowed. And we weren't able to have the meeting last month because we only had 1 person. We only have 6 meetings a month because they've been limited by half. And now the board has voted to not include 2 more members who were present at the last meeting. So as long as everyone's clear as what exactly is happening here, I'm fine if we move on.
How about if I'll make a motion to appoint Matt and Pasha?
Pasha is not interested in being in the dog park committee, so I'm not sure where you got that information from, but he's not interested.
He applied for every committee.
Initially, he applied for every committee.
I don't have contact with him, so I don't know that he had changed his mind, so I'll withdraw my motion. Okay. All righty. Anybody out there have any other motions? Okay. And of course, the motion dies. Okie dokie. Shall we do? Should we leave the fee waivers and non-compliance list for last, and or do you want to?
Do.
Okay. Fee waivers. I don't think I have a fee waiver form.
Yeah, I think.
List of addresses. Right? Oh, no, wait.
The collections after.
Oh.
I don't have anything. I've got the.
It's in the board book.
We're sorry, we're kind of discussing whether or not we have.
In your board book. It's in the board book.
Hang on.
Yeah, it's in the board packet.
Oh, I didn't see it. Okay. All righty. Do I have a motion to approve the fee waiver?
I'll make the motion.
So Charles, Celia, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
I'm going to abstain only because I just don't have the documentation to make any decision.
Okay. Jared abstains. Okay. Now, we have the most current non-compliance report. Have a motion to approve.
Make the motion.
Charles, second.
Second, oh, go ahead.
Okay. Charles and David. Any questions? Nope. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Abstaining again for the same reason.
Okay, thanks, Jared. Okay, authorizing the initiation of the collections process for past due accounts. Lauren?
You were originally you had originally authorized us to use a designated authority to send accounts to collections that had met the criteria set out. That designated authority was pulled back because the auto collections process that was in place with corporate had some kinks in it. So we rectified the situation. We've audited all the accounts again. So now we are ready to send the list of accounts that you have.
And that's what this is?
To collections. So we just need your authority because we've withdrawn the designated.
So you already approved this once to give you the authority, but there was something with the documents, and so it required a new document. Yeah, so that's what we're approving.
I have a question. Do we not have like a limit that we don't take it to collection? Like under 2,000 or under anything like that?
You have a floor of
It's time frame and amount.
things anything over 90 days past due is sent as long as it's over.
We have one that's $373.
Yeah, it's
We have
$200 the floor.
200's the floor.
And 90.
I'd like to change that personally.
For what? Higher, lower?
1,000.
Do grid members corporate chip in and help audit any of these? It sounds like this was a corporate.
Yeah.
Okay, so this wasn't just you all. Okay, good. Okay.
Is that defined by statute? The 90 days?
Yeah, the 90 days is defined by statute. The floor is.
So, okay, let me see if I understand what we're talking about. We're talking about collecting on this, or we're talking about handing it over to collection agency?
It's handing it over to Arias Bosinger, which is your collection law firm, for them to send out the 45-day notice saying you are 92 days past due, you have 45 days to pay us. They have a number of other letters that they would receive before you even get into any legal filing.
How do we, what are our costs on one of those? In legal fees?
You generally get your legal fees back as part of this process because once they get sent to the attorney's fees are part of.
They get added
They
to
get added
this
to
fee.
the account.
And per Florida statute, they have to pay, I believe it is the past due fee. I might have it backwards.
And at this point, all of the residents have been offered like a payment plan or something like that?
If they have reached out to us, they are offered a payment plan.
I would still like it to be higher, but if there's no consensus, that's fine.
But yeah, there's no cost to us for this.
Well,
Is that a fair statement?
I think I
Unless you
might
start
be
filing
very
to go
upset
to
if I had $373 and I got $1,500 more in cost, but you know, we are talking about people who we've tried to give the chance to set up something, but I'd rather err on the side of the resident, in my opinion.
Well, but they've gotten, after the 90 days, how many letters have they gotten and notices?
So they've gotten at least 2 notices
That
they
owe.
owe.
So they've gotten 2 notices.
To their official mailing
To their
address?
official
No,
mailing
I
address.
understand. I just know how busy people can be. I know how some people don't live here all year round. Some people go on vacations for most of the summer, some people. So I just don't think that we should do this for everyone, but that is my opinion.
So if I can dovetail on Jim's point, if there was a $1,000 threshold that it gets turned over, I mean, all of this is after 90 days. And for these who are from the minimum up to 1,000, what if they got one last notice that says, you're on the verge of going to collections in 10 days, 20 days, X number of days, you're going to collections. Have you already done that?
Now you're changing
Yeah, you
your
can't do
approved collections process and you have a resolution to that
Yeah.
effect. So if you want to
Okay.
change your approved collections process, then you need to update your
Okay.
resolution.
What do you see in Grand Manors just across some of your other properties? Is this comparable? In terms of-
200's a little low, I think,
It is.
you know.
This is,
But to Lauren's point, this board adopted a board resolution
Sure.
setting the 200.
Yeah,
Sure, but best practices
two-
across
but
other HOAs.
I think
too.
best practices for this community, I think I would expect more than 200, you know.
I mean, I know my homeowners association, it's $150 late fee per 30 days, plus interest, plus.
does this amount include late fees?
Late fees and interest.
the numbers include that already. Yeah. So like, for instance, the 373 could have been like
That's
250.
probably a covenant fine.
So if we want to redo a resolution, we just need to look at that resolution to Jim's point.
I think Lauren makes a good point. So sometimes you could have an owner, for example, who's paid their assessments,
But not the
but they've been
interest.
fined. So by taking them to the collections process, that's just more teeth into the violation process.
Yeah, I guess there's no one on staff that would make any calls after the 90 days. So this is really our in-house collection in some ways.
That could be mindful of that too, with, management
Process.
time. And
Yeah,
that's where
absolutely.
you start going down the
Yeah.
rabbit hole of
Yeah,
time expense.
I would like it to be higher, but if this is already set up.
This has been your normal course of business for a
So,
number of years.
so I do have a question. What would we do with someone who is under 200?
They don't go to collections.
What happens?
It just sits there.
It just sits in, they accrue interest and
But do they get an extra fine like your HO, like what you just said with your HO?
You accrue interest. on it.
accrue interest, but you don't get an
Accrues
additional
interest,
fine
but-
like I get.
So that's not a supplemental fine. So that may be something that we just take a look at that, to your point again, Jim.
Yeah.
The under 200, I mean, maybe we just look at that process.
These are all in CROA, right? So when you go log in, it's sitting there, when you log in, it's like, bam, bam. Oh, okay.
Yeah, if they were to log into their CRNet account, they would see that this is a past due amount. It would show a red flag.
Right. I know we gave updates on this initially. How many homeowners have logged into their account?
I haven't done a,
What percentage?
I have not
Ish.
looked in the last 6+ months. So last I looked, you were at the 65-ish mark.
I would say 65 to 70.
The low, high, mid. Seems low.
No, and
It
that's
is
what-
low.
I just think it'd be like
Raise
close
it,
to
and
100%.
then they continue to not pay and we can't collect on those, that's gonna affect your budget.
I understand. Yeah. It's a gut feeling.
I don't think we had, I don't think,
Probably it's a better mind.
I don't think we had a motion on this.
I'll make the motion to approve or
To initiate the collection.
authorize the initiation of the collections process for past due accounts.
Have a second?
Second.
Anybody who's past due that's below a quarter's worth of dues, we will reach out to again before we fully send them to collections.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. All right. 851 building, David, that you asked that be added?
Right.
What is the motion that you want
We're in
to?
discussion.
We're just
Oh, it's an action item.
Yeah, we're just
The
talking.
motion would be to initiate repairs to this building so that it is in the very, very near future, functional, safe, and water-free.
Is there a second?
Second.
And then we can talk about, if we need to amend the motion, if there's a dollar amount or so forth.
discussion.
So the discussion, just to start this, is I know we had a report, what, 3 months ago? 2 months, 4 months?
2 months ago.
Beginning, feels longer ago than that. Beginning of June, that outlined what it takes to bring this building back to the function. And I know that the building is still leaking. And I know that I'm not talking about aesthetics right now. I think part of that back to normal means putting the walls back. I think that was part of it. I mean, what's behind these curtains, the wallboard, right now it's all exposed. So I'm not talking about what makes it pretty. I'm talking about what makes it safe, what makes it healthy, what makes it functional, what makes it, if you will, water free. Because I'm understanding that there's water coming in now. And we haven't had a hurricane, knock on wood, this season. I also know that in the future, we have a longer planning process about what do we do with this building. We don't want to throw good money after bad, but if we're going to think about redoing the building structurally, if we're going to think about an addition, if we're going to think about a replacement of this building, which means leveling it, that's years, that's months and months in planning, and it'll be years before a new building or a new structure is here. So we need to make this habitable and appropriate until, I mean, that's just going to get us through this next period, which may be 2 or 3 years. I mean, we've had estimates on what a new building would cost. I mean, do we have the money? I mean, so there's lots of issues. So I want to make this building functional. We can't live this way. Staff, in my opinion, I have not talked with staff about this, but staff can't live this. I don't think can live this way safely. Just to put documents at risk with water. So I think we need to move forward. It's going to be costly. And I would only look at those items. There's what, 20 or 30 items on that list. I'd only look at the items that really we need to do. I think, Bill, you said earlier, yeah, it calls for a roof. That's not due for a while. There's some roof repairs. So we can take the roof. I think
The roof comes out.
the roof comes out. So
Carpet, mayor might be here. That's an extra.
yeah, I'm not talking about aesthetic. It's make it safe, make it dry.
Yeah, Bill.
I had my hand up.
I'm sorry. So that's where I start. And I wanted to, if we need to amend the motion and put a dollar cap on this, you know, whether it's 200,000, 2
I'm going to take
million,
it one step further.
fine.
I am tired of being a slumlord. And that's what these people have been working in for at least a year. They're still leaking. They have frogs coming in the office through the holes. They have wasps coming in through the holes.
Have what?
Wasps.
Oh, wasps.
Nate,
Yeah, there's cans of insecticide sitting at the window to grab them as they come in.
Lauren's office is oozing water.
Yes,
mine has moisture
yes.
throughout.
My suggestion would be to move these people out of this office completely. Find a space that we can rent, either a space we can rent or a space that we can lease, like like a temporary kind of an office building like they have behind Corpus Christi, that kind of a thing. And move them out of here and close off that side of the building. Because that's where most of the damage is. And that way we can still use this side for meetings. Because if we do a patch job like what I think you're suggesting, David, or I mean.
I don't know that it's a patch job.
Well, but I mean.
I defer to Bill and the construction experts.
My understanding is, and Bill, you were in these meetings, Jared, you were too, that would just cost more in the long run if we went and just tried to put lipstick on a pig, as Celia likes to say. This way, there's some place where they can all work together in a spot
Healthy.
away from your healthy. We can take our time deciding what we're going to do with this building and won't be pressured, and they won't be spread out to the Heritage Hall and the Jones Room and the Civic, anywhere they have office space, because that's no way to work. Or working from home and then having to come here for meetings. It doesn't make any sense. That's my thought. I think
Jared was before me.
I understand, and I agree that we need to do something. I understand David's concern for timeliness. The problem here is, so we have a master plan advisory group who were developing for this, and we have a price of $1.8 to $2 million to do what David's asking, to rehab the building. We also have a price now of $6 to $9 million to rehab the building and add an extension on. We need to get a price for a complete replacement of the building and hand all of those over to the master plan advisory group and let that group put together a schedule and take into consideration the budget. It will be a minimum of $750,000 to do what you're asking right now. And I don't think we should spend $750,000 to just fix up the walls of a building that we are going to either demolish or completely redesign. That's not a good use of almost $1 million, in my opinion.
That's why I think we should move the staff out of here, and then we can take our time and, like Charles likes to say, do it right. We don't have to worry about.
Oh, sorry, you go. No.
Next.
Okay. Yeah,
Jim was ahead.
Oh, you want to go? I'll go last.
No, he
Sure.
made some of the points that I was going to make. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can't believe what I'm hearing. Just in all honesty, I'm going to echo what Jared said. I think we agreed as a board to talk about a master plan advisory group.
Exactly.
But here we are, we're making decisions about the future of 851 without consulting them.
No, we're just talking about moving them out.
Hold on. No, we're making decisions though. We're already starting to go down that path. We're already starting to make the same critical mistakes as the soccer field, as Lot D, as lawn sports. It's the same story over and over again. We agreed to have a master plan advisory group, and there needs to be some mutual swim lanes with 851 and the advisory group. It's not, I think, to Jared's point, I think it's short-sighted to say, put $750,000 in this just to fix it and get it. We don't know the future of this building. Why would we put, it makes no sense.
Okay.
It's completely contradictory to what we were saying.
Apparently I'm speaking a foreign language.
No, I understood correctly.
I'm not saying we do anything with this building right now, other than move the staff out.
I agree with that. If there is a safety issue, if there is a documented safety issue, and it kind of sounds from the comments that there is, that's what we should do, and we should not rush it as well. So we actually agree on something, Cindy.
I'm talking about the motion on the table right now. The motion on the table to fix this building is
No, I'm not, yeah.
no comment on the type of motion it is, out of respect.
Point.
I'm sorry.
We have not agreed to have a master plan advisory group. It's for discussion tonight. I will have the same point I made at the last board meeting. I do not support a master plan advisory group. When we had a workshop with this board, we talked about building a master plan. That I agree with, and I think that's incumbent upon this board to do and get advice from residents, but not to defer and abrogate our responsibility to an advisory group. So we have not agreed to that.
Let's talk about
And
that
to
later.
conflate 851 with a master plan advisory group, I don't think is the same. I think this building and having it functional and safe for our residents too. You know, if we're saying it's unsafe for staff, you know, we're going to have leakage and wasps coming in here.
This
or
side of the
events
building
that
is,
happen.
this side of the building is much worse
Okay.
than the other.
It's going to be
So-
years before we have resolution on whatever our
Exactly.
building.
That's why they need to move out.
So they.
I think that's a separate but
Right.
parallel issue.
They move out, but on this side, the partner programs will at least be able to function at least till the end of the year when we have a plan in action.
Right. So that will give us time to come up with if we decide to do the task force thing, we say have a resolution, we pick the members, and we take our time and do it right, like Charles is always saying. I don't think we should put unless we would vote to just do this section of the building the way it's supposed to be done and move on. I don't think we should do anything other than that. I think it takes more planning. That's why I said just move these people out and then we can just take our time with this.
Yeah, and we can look at the soccer fields as an example of poor decisions where we didn't put the additional $150,000 in to fix the drainage, and here we are because we make these decisions without all the facts, without engaging the committees, without bringing people in, and that's where we're headed right now with this decision on the table.
Well, that's why it was made as a discussion, as a action item, so we could talk about it and vote on it if needed. So we're discussing it. That's the purpose of it. Doesn't mean that we need to move forward means that we need to take action, whether we support or not doing something with this building. Let's just not let it sit with a report that came in 2 months ago.
I'll make another motion if you'll rescind
Withdraw.
yours.
Tell me what the motion is, and then I'll
I'm going to
decide
make a
whether to
motion
withdraw.
between now and our next meeting that Lauren find a home for her staff.
Options,
Yes, options.
plural,
You know,
plural.
renting,
I mean, potential
leasing
options.
a thing or whatever, and come to us because it's, that's going to cost some money. But I'm thinking probably, it depends how long that we don't use this building, but I would say under $200,000.
I was looking at trailers today just because you had brought this up previously, and I was looking at essentially what is like a double wide construction
A trailer, module.
One that would fit 15 people comfortably, that had 2 restrooms and an ADA compliant ramp, so we would be able to take residents in there for a 15-month rental, including the delivery cost and the removal cost. It's $148,000.
For 15 months with power and plumbing. So we're getting from interest income.
$100,000.
You're planning on $125,000 next year in your budget.
Subsidize
And
the
it's being
cost.
used to help balance the budget.
Okay. Subsidize the cost of.
I don't have an,
Go ahead, Jared.
I don't have an issue with, I understand the concern about the safety and the wasps and all that, but I will say this is the first that I've heard of that is at this meeting. So there hasn't been any documented safety issues or concerns until literally 10 minutes ago. So all of that is a concern as well. If there's, I'd like to know more about that.
They're not minors.
So I was out last week due to illness. When I came back this week, I was notified that there were wasps and frogs in individuals' walls. And I noticed yesterday in my wall that the plastic that is holding the insulation into place is wet.
And then I have
There's moisture in other areas in the walls in the back.
And I just found out about it yesterday when I came to the finance committee meeting. So
we thought you were going to be here and we were going to show you, but you weren't here last night.
In person.
So to your suggestion, can we also, and I would withdraw my motion.
Thank you.
I haven't yet, but I would.
Okay.
Can we also dovetail that with some accelerated look about what it would take? I mean, we go back to what that work was a couple months ago. What would it take really financially to work on this building?
So I'm gonna
to accelerate that?
Yeah, we can do that. But I was
For
gonna
next
also
meeting.
say that at the bare minimum, I do probably need authorization to replace the existing insulation in there since it's getting damp and
We're
we're
gonna get
further and
mold
further
again.
into rainy season.
Yeah.
It's
And
an
then winter.
It's an unexpected expense, but it's something that we need to do.
Move
And
out.
with the previous cost and having to do this probably multiple times before we move out, it'll probably hit my authorized ceiling.
So perhaps a motion could be, what can we do for staff? What can we do for minimal work? And to minimize throwing good money after bad.
Exactly.
I'll motion to
If I
table this to the next meeting.
So I'm withdrawing my motion and Cindy's going to make a new one so that I think that would address this
Jared made a
to
motion.
act on
Well-
at next meeting.
But Jared
So
just
I-
made a motion.
But I made a motion.
No,
Cindy made a motion.
I made the
I'm going to
motion.
withdraw my motion
He's going to withdraw his.
and I think
I
Bill
made a
needs a second.
motion
Which one?
between now and our next meeting to have you investigate a home for you people. Be it a rental, the Stetson Boulevard, somebody's basement.
That's not a motionable item though. That's just a directive. I motion that we table this with that as the directive.
That's fair. I think that's fair.
Just one more quick discussion. How many of the staff, how many are remote or deployable remotely? So how many actually are needed to be in an actual office versus who can work remotely? Are there certain staff members and do they have the technology?
Maintenance doesn't need office space and they don't use office space right now. Parks and Rec needs minimal office space. They can land at the stick room because there's really only 2 of them that have computers. And they've been, honestly, they've been living at the stick room for the last 2 months during camps.
At least it's getting used.
They're in there. Natalie and I can be mostly remote, come on site with specific office hours to meet with people. Jose and Andy can be mostly remote, trading off one of them on site to help troubleshoot issues. Rose and her admin and the executive administrative assistant can kind of trade off on being here. So really what you're looking at is your two front counter individuals, their manager, and then the community standards team are the key people that need to be on site.
That's what I'm.
We're talking months and months and months, Charles. I mean, think about it. So you're going to have them spread, and the folks here in town are used to being able to stop into a place and say, hey, by any chance, is Lauren available? You know, and you'll take that level of service away from them. Pandemic. You know.
I mean, I'm trying to think too, though, right? We want to maximize our savings and try to find like reasonable ways. And if they're not mission critical in terms of being here, there's a way just temporary for whatever, 5, 6, 7 months to be remote. I don't know. I think it would behoove us to try and think about that, just so we're not renting.
So how do you,
look at a
It'll be
variety
a
of
lot longer than
options.
6 or 7
Yeah,
months.
we're talking about a couple, 3 years.
so how do
We,
you,
we don't have those facts yet.
We do.
We do not.
Okay, so there's a motion on the table to table this until the next meeting. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
And I think to Jared's point, having a directive of, and to address Charles's point about
The
who can
multitude
be
of
where and do we need to rent a space or et cetera. Look at options. Make a recommendation.
so
I'm gonna call the question.
Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, good. Now let's start looking for a new home. All righty. We're on to discussion items. Management update, Lauren, and we have about 22 minutes.
Okay, so the bulk of the management update is in the packet, in the public packet, so I'm not gonna go through all of that, but I am going to skip to the item that everybody wants to know about, is playgrounds.
speak into the microphone loud.
All right, I have good news. Long Meadow Playground was completed today. The fencing will be coming down tomorrow. The maintenance team will be cleaning up the area. The landscapers will be out there to clean up for the most part. They're gonna do some temporary fixes with some pine straw where we would normally put sod, just so we can get things open and moving until we can get bids approved by the board. So we will be opening the playground on Friday morning.
Has it been inspected by the county?
It was inspected by the county and passed.
All right.
Great.
Long Meadow will be open on Friday morning. There will be balloons and free popsicles being handed out by the staff.
So what?
No, you missed your free Dole Whip chance. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was thinking of other people, not me. But I know it's
I
popular.
would speak for me. I concur.
So the outstanding issue remains Spring Park. It is not as far along. An audit of the equipment has been completed. There are 2 pieces missing. They are on their way. They were shipped. So once they are here, they will be handed over to us. The remaining equipment that's in the trailer on the street will be handed over to CROA. That's being worked out by the attorneys. We have found, thanks to Roger's help, a company. The CEO is agreed to assist us. She actually stated that this is not an uncommon problem when you're not using people that only do playgrounds. This is a playground install company.
I was saying, Cloud.
Out of St. Cloud. We can have a project manager from there on site within a week, I believe is what she said.
Next week, yep.
And to assess the situation, figure out the permitting needs and get that ball rolling. And then a team available within 2 weeks to work on the install. We will have some of the synthetic turf items that we will need to bring to the board to address, and that concrete slab piece that still needs to be addressed, but at least we will have a group that is specialized in installing playgrounds taking this forward.
Do you need any authorization ahead of time to be able to push forward with that without pausing?
I believe, Roger, correct me if I'm wrong, Graham Manners is going to cover the cost of the project manager from this company.
Yes.
And then the additional project costs will be on.
Well, I guess the board's on standby to get from Jam and Play, this company, a bid, what it will cost to finish the playground.
So as soon as we have that.
All the costs up until that point, Grand Manners is going to incur.
And can they start work before we approve that cost? Probably not.
We approve it electronically.
Yeah, that's what.
You can approve it
Or can we do an
Yes.
advance approval?
Yeah, you can approve it electronically.
As long as we're all.
Which means
as long as
unanimous.
it's unanimous, yeah.
And then you would ratify that approval at your next meeting.
Where does the turf hit us in the budget? Is that a reserve?
They're all reserve items.
That's a big yay.
Yeah, it's a big celebration.
Good job.
Good job.
Are we gonna use your project management team for this or no?
I don't know. I'm not really sold on it right now, to be honest with you.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
I like Jared's point about her not even having a PMP certification.
Pete and.
I had asked an earlier question that you weren't copied on. How much actual project management? We don't need project management for the Bryan jobs. You know, so how many projects do we need? And I think we should define that before we go looking for a
Oh,
project
it was
manager.
just a question, since we had issues with the last company, but this is all
company
they do.
yeah, they're supplying a specific project manager and this is their specialization. This is what they do.
Okay.
So.
And I think more importantly, they work directly with playgroundequipment.com, which is where you bought your equipment from.
Oh.
Do we own the equipment? Jim? Sorry.
We do?
I just want to ask about what Roger said, because we talked at the executive session where you were going to find out if Graham Manners was going to project manage this to see it through. And now you're saying you don't think that we should do that because you don't feel your person is qualified?
No, I'm saying that our project manager is not going to be the project manager to finish the playgrounds. It's going to be this playground expert, and Graham Manners is paying for the playground expert.
Is the playground expert the installing contractor?
Yes. They have a project manager who's going to be assigned to the project.
But we should have a project manager on our side.
Yes, that's my point. We still need and requested at the executive session a project manager to manage this from our interest, not from their party. I guess I'm confused what changed from the executive session.
I thought the directive I was given, Jared, was to bring in an expert. So that's what I've done. I found an expert in playground equipment that Graham Manners is paying for. So whether it's an in-house project manager or a third party that Graham Manners is bringing to you.
Well, but those are two different things, because we needed a contractor to complete the work, and that sounds like what this is. We need a project manager on behalf of CROA to make sure that that contractor is doing the work, and that project manager shouldn't work for the people doing the work. That's how we got where we are now.
And I thought the actual question was, excuse me if it was not clear during that, was for a project manager for us to manage our interests on our side. So maybe that wasn't clear. If it wasn't, because I asked you a very specific question. If it wasn't clear, I apologize.
What's the plan right now? Who would be managing this from the Grand Manners side without this? Like, who on your staff? Is that Brian?
Wasn't it Eric?
Well, let me revisit this with Eric tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I did a walkthrough of the playground with Brian today. 90% of the playground is installed. It's what the majority of the work that needs to be done is the movement of dirt, fixing of concrete, and the prepping and install of the turf. That would not be what this project manager does. That project would still need to be outsourced by someone. So I brought in my contact, Sandra, to say, I've got a community has a playground issue. I need a project manager to come in. She works directly with playgroundsequipment.com, whom you bought your equipment from. She knows how to get the remaining parts that you may or may not need. When Brian and I went to the playground, you've got equipment that's almost fully assembled, and then you have boxes of stuff laying everywhere. Well, I can bring in someone from first service, sorry. I'm going back here. I can bring someone in from, don't tell Stacy I said that. I can bring someone in from Grand Manners who's a project manager, but I really wanted to bring someone to this community who's dealt directly with the manufacturer who you bought the equipment from.
I think to Jared's point, we need a project manager for the project manager. And I think the concern, I won't speak for Lauren's staff, but they're not project managers, right, at the end of the day. And I think we need that 10% that's left is a pretty critical 10%. We got to get the 10% right.
Yeah.
So that's where I think he's going.
We don't thank you for finding a very qualified vendor. So that's not the question. Thank you for that. It's great. You covered all the bases, short amount of time. I work in consulting. So when we do a professional services project, we have a project manager that's managing us, but usually we want to have a project, if it's a larger project, we want to have a project manager on the client side as well.
So Sandra, who's from Jam and Play, I'm bringing her in to look at this. She's then going to contract with a contractor that go through.
That's what we're
for the playground. She's then going to contract with a turf installer.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Great.
Perfect.
I'm not hiring Sandra to come in and be the vendor and the installer.
Yeah.
I'm bringing Sandra in to say, Sandra, you've helped me out in the past with finishing a project. She's got the playground experience.
Yeah.
She has the contacts with the vendors whom this board will hire to finish the job.
I understand now. Thank you.
Okay,
It's
thank
just
you. Yes,
Sanders
that
not
also
a
clarifies it
Grand
for me.
Okay.
Good job.
Before I move past the management update, can I ask Lauren to ask your staff liaison people to get updates for all the committees to see how they're, because I know we've put timelines in several of the resolutions, like first quarter this, to see how they're coming along.
Progress towards their goals for the year.
Including a management report next month.
Good idea.
Yes.
Thank you. Do you want it in the management report, or do you want us to address it up front from in the committee discussion portion?
I think it's something separate than management report.
Okay.
Personal
Committee
opinion.
discussion? Okay. Okay. In the interest of time, can we just scoot down real fast to Winter Wonderland? Because I don't think that's something that we want to hang on to until we
think we have to wait until August.
Why?
No, I think
why? Because we're going to take the time to see if there's safety issues, confirm there's safety issues on that side, see if there's anything we need to be concerned about on this side.
Well,
have a plan. And once we have that, then we can commit to what is safe being available.
I mean, I'm interested in hearing the Winter Wonderland conversation. That's just me. I mean, I'm interested in hearing. I'm just curious. So
I would suggest that nothing is going to happen based on our discussion tonight. We're not going to be renovating this building in the next 5 months.
Right.
So we should continue with the contract that we have, that Winter Wonderland proceeds. Nothing's going to happen in this building. We're not going to put an addition on. We're not going to level the building. We're not going to have decided that in the next 5 months.
And it was approved in February's Park and Rec.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a clause in there that says it's based on acts of God and so forth that you can cancel the contract. But I think it's,
But
also.
the other partners can continue also.
But all of our partners.
On Saturdays, they use
I think the building continues unless there are documented safety concerns. But I think, I think we have some health concerns with staff on that side. I'm sorry.
It's popped in my head. Can you get ProServe in to give it a quick look, see, since they're under agreement with Grand Manners?
Yes.
That they have the hygienist who's certified the building.
I was under the impression, based on the last meeting, that there was a discussion about is this building going to be here in December to use for Winter Wonderland?
We didn't know.
So is that what we're discussing today? Not that, because the fee waiver is already in place. Parks and Rec has already approved that. Is that
Okay,
what?
so the discussion
It's just-
with
do we
Winter
let them use it or not?
Wonderland,
Do we let them use it or not? Do we say, yes, go ahead,
Oh,
start
okay,
advertising?
okay. I thought it was, are we making a commitment? Is this building gonna be here?
No, no.
It's
Okay.
yes or no.
Well, that's sort of part of it, yeah. Can we-
Yeah,
do we
have to
know
be here
for
and start advertising.
commit the building to them in December right now?
For that,
Okay,
for
so-
that 1 week
right, it's for the 1 week in December.
after Thanksgiving.
Right, they start on Monday, they're finished the following Monday. They start their program in July, reaching out to the community,
All the preparation.
getting all the preparations, getting their sponsors, getting their people to donate. They highlight our community. People come from not just Celebration to do this Winter Wonderland. They come from Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. They come from all over. This is a big event for the community.
I don't think we don't
Yeah.
need to be sold. I mean.
Well, I'm just explaining to Charles because he wanted to know what it was.
No, but I was under the impression that we needed to make a commitment. Is this building gonna be here in December? And I don't think we can.
Or under construction, and chances are.
Yeah,
not.
I think we can make that commitment.
No, I don't think we can make any commitment. No,
I think we
no,
can.
when my kids have a party, and it gets rained out, it's my responsibility to go find a contingent vendor or go find another backup plan. It's not our job to
But
do the
this
backup
building
plan.
is gonna be here. We're not doing anything with it. It's
We're not
Where
gonna
do you
decide
order?
that it's gonna be
There's an
leveled.
act of God or
I don't
a
think we-
hurricane brings
We
in
know
water.
that. We know that.
Yeah.
We know that. I think we need to make a commitment, We said last month we'd make a commitment tonight. We need to make the commitment tonight that we are honoring the foundation to offer Winter Wonderland this December.
It's here, sure.
I'm fine. I'm fine voting on this, but I think that David and Celia need to abstain from this vote.
Why?
why?
Well, David, you sit on the board for the foundation, so there's a
I'm
conflict.
liaison. I do not sit on their board. I'm a
You're on
liaison to
their-
the board.
You're on their
I
advisory
am
council.
not. I am not. I am a liaison.
You're
I'm a
not on their
liaison.
advisory council?
I am not. I am not. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm the executive director. He's a board liaison. He is not.
I'm a board
listed as an
liaison.
Advisory council or board member.
Just like
And Celia
everyone
has-
else is a liaison.
And
And
Celia
I'm a
has,
volunteer.
no, you have an immediate family member who is employed by the foundation.
What got to do with anything?
Qualified, and I'd hire again today out of 200.
That's got nothing to do
I'm-
with it, Jamie.
I'm not disputing whether
This
it's,
is a com-
I'm
this is a
trying to make you
community
understand
event.
what a conflict of interest is, that's all.
Okay.
There is none on my
There is
end.
none.
And I don't see one on Celia's.
I'm on the
Suppose-
Celebration Foundation's website, and Dr. David Anderson is listed as a member of the advisory council, so I understand you're all
I am
telling me
not.
differently.
I am telling you differently. I'm a liaison. Voted in by this board 3 months ago.
Yes, I'm speaking about the foundation itself.
I'm not on their board, and I'm not on an advisory board.
I guess maybe they just need to update their website.
The website is incorrect.
Okay,
I have a question. Have you ever been on their advisory board?
Nope.
So that
I'm
must
very
be a mistake,
confused.
However long it's been up.
I've never looked at it.
you
That- that-
don't know?
Regardless of
I
whether
haven't
you
looked
looked at
that
it,
list- I haven't looked at that listing.
I just want to make it clear that you're not only saying that you aren't on now, but you've never been on
That
it.
is correct.
Thank you.
My point was if the building is here, use it. If it's not here,
And unless
building's gonna be
unless it
here.
falls down between now and then, or.
If we decide to level the building, then it's a whole different story.
The answer that Nikki has been giving to our partner programs is you can use this building unless and until something happens to it. And we will have at least 30 days notice to provide you that you need to, that we will find you a contingency plan in our spaces, or you need to find a contingency plan there. If you want
That
us to
sounds
apply the
great.
same
perfect.
commentary to the foundation,
Yes,
then
that should just be the standard blanket message.
So,
It's consistent.
so do we have an agreement on the Winter Wonderland?
they were granted a cost fee waiver for the.
And is there anything in that agreement / contract that says we need to cover any costs if it's not available? Okay, great. Thank you.
Just a fee waiver.
So this is nothing to vote on. We're just doing standard procedures for everything that we do as far as facility usage.
Well, we're giving them the go-ahead to say, okay, go get your sponsors.
Yeah.
Go
Proceed
get
with your
your
planning.
donations, go get your volunteers.
That sounds like a promise and a commitment. I wish we had a lawyer here, Lauren, you know, whether that was to be considered a contract.
Kathleen,
We have a contract.
Kathleen,
So we have contracts with our partner programs. We have agreements with our civic groups. With our partner programs, what we've told them is these rooms are available currently. They may not be available for the full rest of the year. We will do our best to relocate you on our existing facilities. If we cannot, then you will need to make other arrangements. That's essentially the standard line that we would give to the foundation at this point, barring any additional vote.
And anyone else?
I'm willing to approve it if we say that that's the language. I just don't want to put us in a place of liability.
Yeah, my concern also was seeing Winter Wonderland and then obviously the partner programs too. So if we're giving the same standard message across the board, then I think I'm good with that. That's where kind of where.
And we have lifelong I think there's lifelong this fall and all these other programs.
Yes.
So
I think
the point is we're not closing down the building.
I think the difference with the difference with Winter Wonderland is if it's one of the other partner programs, it's easier to pivot. With Winter Wonderland,
They need this whole
yeah,
side.
they need the whole side. They need it for a week. There's a lot of planning, but they understand that if something happens, then they have to go to Plan B.
And to clarify language, I do not view the relationship with the foundation as a partner program or Winter Wonderland as a partner program. It's a partnership.
Mm-hmm.
Partner program means something else for CROA. So it's a partnership. Back from the beginning.
So
Kathleen, basically, we're saying proceed as, I don't think it's a vote item.
No.
It's just.
Yeah. We had concerns, we're not as concerned
you,
anymore, so.
We're ready to go. We can't control it. So, I mean, it's.
So just to be clear, we're saying that we're gonna keep the commitment if it's available and if it's safe.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, I would agree that it's probably a liability if we say, yes, you can market this. You have the information, like that's on you to determine the marketing and the go forward approach. I think that puts us in a position of liability. We stay with the canned message and that's it.
Oh, Kathleen, did you want to say something?
Yes, I do agree. It's not like a.
Wait, hold on. I thought we aren't having speaking foot on. It doesn't make sense to allow speaking on this.
This is a discussion item, not an action item.
So, okay, so just to be clear, we can have people participate in this, right? You're good with that?
That's how we have had this, the distinction we made historically.
That's not talking about history.
Discussion items, we have
This
invited.
is here to inform us, not constrain us.
Kathleen, you can come up and speak.
She said she understands, basically. Okay. All right,
Okay.
so it is like 2 minutes
Am I
before
allowed
8.
to speak or not? I'm not going to start talking again. Am I allowed to speak or not?
Yes.
Okay. It is different than a partner program where it's a class that you can relocate.
Right.
It is something of great magnitude, so it would need to be canceled. So
Right.
It would need to be definitive.
We can't hear you.
She said it would
She
need to
said
be
it's something
definitive.
that it's not like a perfect program that you can pivot if you are canceling a class.
So we do have to commit to this being available. I don't think we're ready to do that yet. If we do more research, if we can confirm certain things, then I think we're ready to do that. I understand goes against timeline. I wish we could have got to this earlier, but we did not. But I do not think that we can make a commitment that it will be here in December because we don't know whether we have needed to start doing something to the building by then.
Like what we said.
I don't know.
Well, I do because.
Why? How do you know
the construction timeline? We could, if we authorized what CERTA told us to do, we would not be doing any construction physical work at least before the end of November and probably into the new year because of all the things.
End of November is going to affect Winter and Wonderland, which is in December.
We could push it back.
It could be pushed back a week like we did last year when CERPRO came in. We let CERPRO come in the week after. I think they started on December 12th. It was that simple.
Again, you did not say that.
But the partner programs also, again, and we can say this for everyone here, this building may not be here for the partner programs also. We don't know the destiny of this building in December.
Where's it going?
A few previous topics ago, a few previous topics ago, we were arguing why we need to do something to this building immediately. We need to take action as quickly as possible. Now, to serve the purpose, we're arguing that we need to make sure this building is here through the end of the year for one particular event. I really don't understand what's going on here.
That's not what we said, Jerry.
We're talking about the staff side of the building.
Yeah, and making it safe for them to work.
Well,
And
that was
leaving
not
this
the
building
initial
alone.
discussion, though.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yes, it absolutely was. The concern is about the staff and moving out of business, and I specifically said, then you can take your time to decide what to do with this building or an addition, if you're gonna raise it, if you're gonna fix it like it should be fixed, whatever. The only thing that with Winter Wonderland, and I'm sure Kathleen understands, if a hurricane comes through here and it's even
Takes the roof
worse,
off.
then
That's an act of God, because nobody
Absolutely.
can control it.
absolutely.
So two things. We said at our last board meeting in this room, we would resolve this tonight. Need to resolve it tonight, period. Second, in any logical mind, nothing is going to happen to change this facility this calendar year. We're going to take months to deliberate, get community involvement, and decide which way we're going to go. We're not going to do crap with this building, and quote me on that, this year. So we can make the commitment, period. Let's move on. No, I mean, we've made the commitment. We have a contract. We know that weather can happen.
Hey, nobody knew COVID was gonna shut down the world. This is just something we're moving forward with.
Lauren,
We value the partnership.
I have a
Some of us
question for
value the
Lauren,
partnership with the
please.
foundation.
I have a question for Lauren, please. Thank you. Okay. Based upon our agreement and whatever motion we decide to put on the table, can it be considered if they say, we need a definitive answer, and we say, yes, you can have it, and we do not provide it, are we liable? You can say, I can't answer that because you're not.
You're in that state because she's not studying.
I'm not licensed in the state of Florida, so I can't answer that question legally.
I'm okay with.
Lauren, can I propose something else? We authorize them to go forward and we make it contingent on ProServe clearing the building.
It's a similar concept with the partner programs that if the facility is here, you can use it. If it's not here, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to find a contingency. It's
That's
a very similar concept.
What Lauren just said.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Mike Jackson, 413 Sycamore Street. Many years a president of the foundation, currently vice president, and we're not asking for a guarantee. Just that if the building's here and it's safe, we can use it.
Absolutely.
We know there may be a curveball given to us. That's going to be a problem because a lot of people put a lot of time into this, put together the trees, the lands, the table skates, the baskets, all that kind of stuff. But the two ladies sitting right there put the most money into it and everything else. And we know that. We'll take that risk. So we're not looking for a definitive answer.
Okay.
We've been there 6 times and we circled back around and gotten confused. I really don't understand. I really don't.
This has nothing to do with me not wanting you to have the event here if it's available.
But the confusion that's been going on here.
The
and saying,
confusion is around potential liability around making a promise and a commitment. And I am not a lawyer. I just don't want to put us in a position that we would be liable for legal action.
Jim, I guarantee you that the foundation is not going to sue anybody.
Okay.
The foundation has never sued anybody for anything. We've navigated many things.
Okay.
Okay.
And I think it's, again, consistency in messaging. So we want to make sure we're all on the same page.
Lauren said it, you said it, Lauren said it, it's been echoed 12 times. And why we can't just get that and move on, I really don't understand. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Are we going to make a motion on this then tonight?
No motion. The discussion.
Business as
The discussion.
usual.
We don't need a motion. I think we have consent.
Yep.
The discussion.
Okay, we have several things left on discussion. It is past 8 o'clock. Are we putting them through to the next meeting?
I would request that you at least discuss a time frame to have a workshop regarding the management company evaluation and a time frame for making a decision on if and how you're doing resident contribution to that pact, because I know individuals from corporate would like to schedule time to come in here to participate in a workshop
For the management
and
company
for the
evaluation.
management company evaluation, and we need some run time to get a survey out if we're going to do resident
And
feedback.
your deadline was tonight for the board members' input.
I have mine.
I'm collecting.
Not gonna look.
I got,
I'm collecting. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for the work going into it.
yeah, thanks, Gary.
No, you're welcome. I think it's something that we've never done in 27, 28 years.
I think the only thing we've done is, and at least in my term here, is an annual evaluation of the executive director. And that was done off and on in my 7 years. So,
So we don't want to, so we have a workshop on the 9th with budget. We don't want to, already said we don't want to piggyback anything on there. But I know we want to keep this going. Sign one.
Baseball.
I know we want to keep this going. When do you think we can get together and talk about how the community involvement piece?
Land, was that going to be a board directed or Gary coming up with? I know he didn't want to, like, but the
No,
question.
I think he said he didn't want to be.
Yeah, he said he
alone with
didn't
the
want to.
community, With the resident. Not like in those words, but he said,
Right.
right?
He's got his hands full with what he's doing.
So fulfilling the RFP.
So let me take a stab at that. If the board has no opposition of just crafting a few questions, maybe a rating scale and a couple open-ended questions, and we can present them maybe at the next meeting.
And a couple options how to disseminate it, or?
Yeah.
Okay. Between now and the next meeting, is it?
Or workshop, or, yeah, I would say workshop.
and then what a timeline would be for everything.
Yeah, I can get it done pretty quick.
Do you want to?
Because the renewal is automatic unless there's a decision otherwise in a year and 3 months, November 1st of
October 31st, 24.
And so if there was a decision otherwise, then that has other implications that back the calendar up until this fall or at the latest winter. And then, thank you.
So what are you thinking? So by the next meeting, you'll have something to share?
Yeah, we can just, we can.
Bat it around a
That's a
little
good
bit
idea.
and
Yeah.
tweak it and.
The one thing we'll have to figure out too with what Gary compiles and the community evaluations, how are we going to marry these together to come up with some form of composite? We can figure that out.
So in addition to Charles, can we appoint somebody else to maybe work with Charles so we can build some consensus and get this moving?
I will.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Will that also conclude that latter part? How do you put it all together?
Well, we'll
Get a
together.
potential timeline?
Yep, timeline and channels and,
Just as a real quick suggestion, it's almost like a yes/no decision, but there can also be a yes if, or yes but, or yes with suggestions or something.
Yeah,
I don't want to call it probation, but I hate that, but something, a yes, a qualified yes.
I think we want to try and keep as many open-ended as, like maybe with and again, I'm spitballing, but on a scale of 1 to 10, rate them overall, and then open-ended questions, what is Grand Manor's doing well? What is Grand Manor? Where are there 2 to 3 opportunities?
And no, I don't disagree with that. What I was speaking to is when you put it all together, the yes, no, it's, are we continuing the contract? Definitely. Are we not continuing? Definitely not.
I don't know if that's going to be within that's a larger.
In terms of a timeline for putting it together.
We may need to huddle.
We need to make a decision sooner rather than later. We can't make a decision October 31st and say no.
Yeah, October
I'm not
31st,
forecasting
2024.
anything.
Well, that's what he did.
24.
It's 2024.
Yeah, that's when the contracts
I understand.
automatically renews.
Do you need to make a decision? We can't make a decision this October or next October?
But the
If we
discussion,
don't do anything, it renews.
but you'd have to build,
But we don't want to make a decision October 24.
Correct.
you'd have to build in an RFP runway you'd have to
Yeah.
build in.
Yeah, if we're gonna say no, we need to
That's,
go
well, that's
back.
why we started it now, right?
So
We know
exactly
there's
right.
lead time.
That's exactly
I'm
right.
just wondering
Okay.
how much lead time you
In the,
think
in the interest of,
needs to be done.
No late, I'd say no late, we make a decision no later than like January.
Okay.
I mean, that's my thing.
Yeah, no, that's good. I like that.
so Cindy, would it be agreeable and would everyone agree? We'll come up with the community evaluation. We'll come up with a rough timeline of.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. So I was not disagreeing or giving you a face for that other part.
No, you're good.
No,
Well,
I was not tracking for, no, I'm
And
with you.
since
Thank you.
we're talking about August, then your folks can relax a little bit as far as their schedule goes.
So we can think more in October, November-ish
Yeah.
for a workshop.
And we'll be done with the budget too by then, so then we can
That'll
probably.
be good. Yeah, October, November, yeah.
So maybe your October workshop, which is the second Wednesday of October, would be a good aiming landing
Okay.
spot. And that workshop, we can have corporate here.
I actually have a question for you.
So that's the 11th.
Okay. I'm missing 2 board members' inputs, and I don't want to wait till October to get them.
We won't be.
Jared,
Next meeting.
funnel it.
I talked to you last night at the CCD board meeting. And asked for an extension. You reluctantly gave it to me.
Right.
Very reluctantly, I will say.
But you
Very
got an
reluctant.
extension?
Did.
Jared, did you turn yours in? Or no?
I did.
You did?
Gary, I handed mine to Gary personally before I left.
Okay.
I also need.
All right. Who's the holdout?
I'm looking for in next few days.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Yes, sir. Bill?
I'm just curious because it's a numerical scoring system. However, there's also comments.
Yes.
So are you going to compile all the comments?
Yes.
So
You know,
if David and I have comments on the same item, you'll put them in,
yes.
or my initials by mine and your.
No,
and your
No,
initials.
no initials.
I have no idea where the comments came
Yeah.
from, but every comment, even if it's repetitive, will be included underneath the line item that it was attached to. So you may see some with no comments, and you may see some with 5 or 6 or even 7. And 2 or 3 of them may be the same comment.
And that's actually good because it shows it was concerned for 3 people.
Exactly.
Okay.
And
Thank
there'll
you.
be no attribution or location to where it came from. And my intent is eventually is to return what you just gave me because I don't want to keep it. It's going to go back to you.
Okay. Thanks, Gary.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I'm sorry
Thank you
for
very
the
much.
extension. Right.
Okay, folks, it is almost quarter after now. We have B, D, no, B, E, and F. Next meeting? Or do we?
Yeah,
Next meeting?
is the master plan group something we can discuss over email so that we're not waiting so long?
You just make a decision on maybe the application look, so we can push that out, and then you guys can adopt a resolution and appoint a committee in August.
Well, but we have to discuss, you had a copy of it. Jared put some criteria together and stuff that we
Invest
need to
and I'll
discuss.
that
Yeah.
offline, yeah.
Yeah.
And the resolution, I think we
And
had,
the
I
resolution.
got it from you,
Yeah.
a couple others.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Yeah, we can continue doing that offline.
Okay, great. It's going well, I think, is something to note for the community. It's going well, the master plan group development.
And just for the record, as I said last time, I think that's abrogating the board's responsibility. I think we have the experience with our committee work and with our years of service to see the big picture. And that is our job, to do the master plan with community input and not with an advisory group. I think we can have that done by October.
More about that offline. Celebration email for residents next month. Legal service stars peak next month. And does anybody have any comments before we get a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Jared?
I have a comment.
Oh, so there's got a comment. There we
I
go.
have a comment. Thank you, Lauren, Natalie, Roger, Jose. What do you do for the community?
We have a motion. Second.
Second.
Oh, Jim second.
Jared and Jim? All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.